Welcome to AQMD On the Air. I'm your host, Lior Alpern. As Executive Vice President for the Lewis Group of Companies, our guest today oversees the sales and marketing operations of one of the nation's largest privately held real estate organizations. The Lewis Group focuses on developing planned communities, industrial sites, and shopping centers throughout California and Nevada. Our guest has over 30 years of experience in the real estate industry and is regarded as an industry leader in promoting arts, education, healthy living, and sustainable development initiatives. Mr. Lewis, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Your organization has a unique perspective when it comes to development here in Southern California. Could you tell us a bit about your company's emphasis on being stewards of the environment, and in particular, how do you address energy efficiency and use of renewable energy in your new developments?
Well, we try very hard to be good stewards of the environment. As a company, we're perceived, and rightly so, as a very progressive company. And so when it comes to energy, what we're trying to do in learning is how to learn to be the best stewards possible. Right now, we're working hard with organizations such as AQMD, the gas company, Edison Company, MWD, our local utility companies such as Inland Empire Utility, and a project called the Frontier Project in Rancho Cucamonga. We're trying to learn from all of those what are the best practices. We're also trying to use the very best consultants we can find to help us learn the state of the art. And lastly, we're trying to partner with our trade partners to say, what are you doing with other companies? So that's how we're trying to learn to get better. In actual practice, we're doing a number of things, such as solar energy to help with our swimming pool heating. We're looking into car charging for electric vehicles for future projects. And we're really looking at the whole array of tools out there to say, how can we be the best stewards possible? We're also trying to study the role of trees. We're finding out that trees can play so many benefits on the energy front, not just from shade, but from also cleaning the air. So we're spending a lot of time on trees right now.
I'd like to ask you about the implementation of SB 375. It's a theme that we bring up with a lot of our guests because we're really trying to figure out how this region is going to deal with these new regional targets. And the California Air Resources Board, of course, has sent the regional reduction targets for greenhouse gas emissions, and then SCAG is working on their plans. So you're really at the ground level in the implementation of these plans, in particular for the reduction of vehicle emissions. Could you talk a bit about mixed-use developments that your company is working on in the region?
Sure, and we've been doing this for a number of years. I think a good example I'll start with is a residential community called the Preserve, which is a large master plan community in the city of Chino. The Preserve in Chino will ultimately have about 8,000 houses just in our part of it, as well as shopping centers and schools and park and city uses. So one thing we've tried to do there is put a school as the center of the community. We know in so many communities that parents are driving their kids to school. We tried to place the school where it's a walkable school, so as many kids as possible could walk or bike to school. We also use something called joint use there. We put in a joint use library, we've got a joint use ball field, we've got joint use community centers. When we've looked at the patterns of trips that a lot of our residents have, we found out that some of these daily or weekly trips are to places that are outside of where they live, and we said, why not put them inside? So if somebody lives at the Preserve, they can go to the library by car or by walking or by bike. They can go to the school, they can go to a park, they can go play basketball. The Preserve doesn't have a retail component now, but it will when we get a few more rooftops there. They can do a lot of their shopping without getting in the car. We've also tried to make it a very walkable community. And it's hard to do that. It's a real art form to say, how do you make it where you've got a good pathway, an interesting pathway, and destinations for people to go to. So we've worked very hard at the Preserve to say, how do we cut down vehicle miles traveled there? We've also tried to work hard there in the design of the houses and the design of the community itself. First thing we tried to do was something that's called compact development. And what compact development means really is just using the land more efficiently. And it just makes sense. If you build 4 houses per acre, you're going to use a lot more land, a lot more water, a lot more street, a lot more block wall, a lot more of everything than if you build those houses at 8 per acre. So we're trying to do what's called compact development. We're also trying to be smarter at how we design the houses. It turns out that a lot of the houses that are really great in Southern California are relatively simple to build. They just have good proportion and good detailing. So we've tried to say, how do we design our houses so they don't have to use as many resources going in? Along with that, we've tried to say, are we building them the right way? And this is a theme that we're hearing now from a lot of experts in this field, that they say before you do some of the esoteric things to save energy, make sure you get the design of the home right. Do you have the right windows? Do you have the right insulation? Do you have the right orientation? If you can get the house designed right and then built right, you go a long way towards saving energy.
Your company's also been involved with some large-scale retail developments. Could you explain to our audience a bit about some of these practices that are being implemented in those facilities?
We've been lucky enough in Rancho Cucamonga to be involved with a company called Forest City in Victoria Gardens, which is one of the nicest shopping centers in Southern California, if not in California. And Victoria Gardens is a great example of what we've been talking about. Victoria Gardens is a mixed-use development, so it's a great shopping environment, but it's also got a residential component in it. It's got a very strong civic component in it. The city built a cultural center that has a library, a performing arts center, a big banquet hall, and community rooms. So the thought at Victoria Gardens was a one-stop place where you could go and spend a day there without having to make a lot of car trips. We think that it's a great showcase for these techniques, and we think other communities will have projects like that in the future. We've also tried at Victoria Gardens to make it easy to get to if you don't want to have to drive a car. We spent a lot of time on how to get the bike routes right to Victoria Gardens, how to get the right bike storage areas. We've also tried to work with the bus transit people to say, how can we get as many bus trips to Victoria Gardens as possible? And then the landscaping of Victoria Gardens. It's beautiful landscaping, but it's water-efficient landscaping. So Victoria Gardens, we think, is a great example for people to study.
And a final category that your company is working on is on commercial and industrial, also working on goods movement, transfer facilities, all the trucks coming out with the cargo from our ports, arriving in the Inland Empire at facilities that you're developing. Could you explain to our audience how your sustainable practices are being implemented when it comes to the goods movement sector?
Well, first, the goods movement is key to the economy of Southern California. It's gotten a lot of attention always. I think now in this recession, it's getting even more attention. And with the threat of the Panama Canal and the threat of other ports, it's going to get more attention in the years ahead. So it's a key industry we have to focus on. It's a huge economic driver for everybody. We've seen that the ports have made excellent progress in the last couple of years, and the shippers have made excellent progress. What's now encouraging to see is that the tenants and the developers are also beginning to make some excellent progress in how the buildings are designed in these distribution centers, in the processes of how the trucks get there, how they store and how they load and unload goods, and just all of the ways that the goods are moved through these distribution centers. So something we're watching very closely. We're involved in one large project, but I think people will be pleased to see that the progress of the trucking industry, the ports, and then the tenants and developers, we've made great strides, and everybody is still working hard to make even greater strides in the future.
Before we close, could you provide some general themes looking to the future of Southern California and each of these sectors, residential, retail, commercial, industrial facilities, and how you see us progressing and your role for your industry in the overall picture of cleaning up the air in Southern California?
Sure. Well, I've talked not just our industry, but the business community, because we're part of a larger business community. I think number one we need to do is work hard to forge better partnerships with the public sector. There's just too many problems in California. There's not enough money and there's not enough time for either side to do it alone. So we're working hard as a company, and the business community is working hard to forge the kind of partnerships that are necessary. We're also trying to work very hard on understanding the great research that's coming out of the research universities in Southern California. We've got some of the best in the world here, and we think we need to do a better job of tapping into them. We think as a business community, we've got to do a better job with Sacramento and with Washington on creating a jobs agenda. It seems like we've lost our way the last couple of years. And right now, so much of the work that's been going on the economy is not focused on jobs. So we need to work very hard on that. I think we also need to work very hard on consumer education. That's something that AQMD has done a good job on, and a lot of the other agencies such as Edison and the gas company and the water agencies are doing. So we think consumer education is going to be key, and also trade partner education, that the people in all parts of the business community need to learn how do you conduct your business in a better way.
Looking towards efforts that will continue to clean the air in Southern California, could you discuss the patterns of development and the strategies that are needed in order to continue making steady progress?
Southern California is going to keep growing. It may grow faster or slower depending on job growth, but Southern California is going to keep growing. So we need to take a regional approach with multiple strategies to handle that growth. There always is a debate, should it be infill development or greenfield development? I think the answer is that you've got to have both. You certainly need to focus on infill, but there are not enough sites available, and there are political challenges to having a solution that's only infill development. So for me, the development patterns we have to focus at are how to do infill wherever possible and do greenfield development, but do smarter greenfield development. What that would mean in either case is different strategies for different situations. Clearly electric vehicles are going to be a big part of it. Clearly mixed use is going to be a big part of it. Clearly transit-oriented design and compact design are going to be big parts of it. So I think what we need to do as policymakers in Southern California is say, how do we accommodate the growth that's coming, and how do we come up with multiple location smart techniques to accommodate that growth? So I look at the business community and the real estate industry specifically as being part of a partnership that'll help drive California to the future and keep the air clean and make it even cleaner. At the end, I'd like to say I salute AQMD. The work that they're doing is so important right now, and it's the kind of dividends people don't understand, but it's really going to be important for us to get this right. So we want to work with AQMD. We think what they're doing is important, and we want to come up with the balanced programs that keep the economy going, but also give us the health benefits we need in California for the future.
Mr. Lewis, I want to thank you for joining us today, for explaining to us the remarkable work that your company is doing that is essentially helping to build sustainable communities and helping to clean the air that we breathe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's our show. I'm Leora Alpern. Thank you for watching AQMD on the Air. Visit us at cleanairconnections.org to learn how you can help us clean the air that we breathe.
Together now, let's work together.